sticky metal knocks it out of the book. Oh, crowd goes wild. Oh.
Hello, you beautiful people out there on the internet. It's me, Joe, and we're back today with another episode of Breakfast In, the show where I take you on a food plane across the world to check out other foods, breakfast foods specifically. You're gonna take your food luggage and grab your food Uber and go to the food airport and get rubbed down by food TSA, and then you're gonna get on that food red eye and we're gonna make some dang New Zealand breakfast today. So I reached out on the New Zealand Reddit and asked you guys kind of what the traditional breakfast would be in New Zealand. And I got a ton of responses, a ton of Blue Powerades, energy drinks, toasties, pies. I got a lot of just coffee. I also got Eggs Benedict, quite a lot. And so I kind of wanted to make something that was a nod to the traditional styles of New Zealand, as well as putting my own spin on it, and then kind of challenging myself and doing some cooler stuff too that would nod to the indigenous people as well. And I need to get started as soon as possible, so let's go. All right, let's get started here with the first dish, or bread, shall I say. This is a traditional Maori bread called Rēwena bread. It's a sourdough, so we're gonna need a starter. This starter starts with 90 grams of washed and peeled potatoes. So we're gonna cut those up. We're gonna put them in a pot, cover with water, and cook until soft. Once these come out, I'm going to add the 120 milliliters of water and mash it up. From there, I'm going to add the 12 grams of all-purpose flour, mix it up, set it aside for 3 days, and we'll come back to it. Now, this was taking a little while to ferment, so I decided to add 1 teaspoon of honey to get it going. And here we are after 3 days. You can see we've doubled in volume, so I'm ready to bake with it. First thing we're gonna do is mix the flour, the starter, as well as the water to get an autolyse going, and we'll let that sit for 30 minutes. After 30, we're going to add the salt and the remainder of the water, the 30 grams, and mix to combine. Now this might want to try to split on you with the water and the salt, but you know what, you can do it, just keep working it in, it'll work out in the long run. After we do that, we'll let it set for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna come out with our first fold round. So there's gonna be 3 rounds of folding, all a half an hour apart. This is our first one. Pull up, fold over, spin it 90 degrees, and repeat until you've done all the sides. After these 3 folds, we're going to let it sit and bulk ferment for about 3 to 4 hours in a nice warm spot. Now we're coming out of that bulk ferment. Look how nice, soft, and supple that dough looks. I'm gonna turn it out onto the surface here. Nice and floury surface there. And we're gonna split it into our 2 loaves. These soft doughs are often hard to work with, but if you just kind of trust yourself, get some flour on your hands, you're gonna do fine. Now we're pulling out our dough for a little pre-shaping here, just kind of pulling out the corners and then folding, rolling, pulling in, creating some surface tension. Don't kill yourself over this. We're just trying to get some tension out there. This is the pre-shaping, so it's not the end of the world if it's not the prettiest thing. So I'm gonna put a little more flour on here, set it aside, get it covered, and let it sit for a half an hour for its bench rest. After a half an hour, we're gonna pull off the saran wrap here. and start on our final shaping. So same kind of idea, lay down, pull out the corners, get it a little flat, but you just got a lot of air into it from fermenting, so try not to punch all that out. I'm kind of doing this crisscross folding thing. This is to create a seam at the bottom of the loaf. Then we're going to roll it down from the top there. Again, just creating that tension for the loaf. Meanwhile, I'm going to set my oven to 500 degrees, put my Dutch oven in there, and get it ripping hot. Now, I don't have a banneton here, so I just took a bowl, a tea towel, and floured it pretty well. Then I'm going to flip it seam side up into the bowl and let it proof for about 2 hours. Real quickly, I did a push test on this guy. It rebounds, not all the way, so we're just right at that perfect proof right now. I know this was kind of a makeshift banneton, so we're gonna try to get it out. Hopefully we don't get any sticking. I'm gonna flip it onto this plate like so with this homemade lame, and then we're going to drop it right into the Dutch oven. This is going in for 30 minutes with the lid on, and then I'm going to pop it out, take the lid off, and put the Dutch oven back in. Alright, we've got a nice little oven spring. I'm going to take the lid off, put it right back in for another 30 minutes or until golden brown. So we got the first loaf out of the oven. It's not looking really good. It looks okay. I'm semi-happy with it. It was a bit of a struggle to get it out of the oven and into the oven, but I do have a second loaf, and we'll be throwing that in a second though. But you can see the color is pretty nice. It just showed up or it came out kind of flat and oblong, so try again. Whoa.
You're not gonna stick and poke them. Yeah. Wow. Nice.
I cut into it too early, but I don't care. Look at that beautiful crumb. So this is going to be the base for our eggs benedict that we'll finish up just a bit later here. But, you know, I'm pretty happy with it, and damn did it taste amazing. From here, we're going to start off our eggs benedict with a toasted piece of sourdough. We're going to assemble really quickly here. So I have some simmering water. I just took an egg. I put it over a strainer to pull off any of the watery part of the egg. Now I'm putting it in a bowl and just dumping it right into the center. This is going to kind of keep its own shape, but if it does start to get away from you, just kind of pull up and in with the spoon, just like this. Alright, all finished after 2.5 minutes. Pull it out and set it aside real quick while we make the hollandaise. I have 1 stick of unsalted butter, and I'm going to extract the 1 yolk out of this egg right here. Beat that up really quick. And now I am putting the egg in the blender. I've warmed up the blender with some warm water, then dumped it out and dried it thoroughly. Alright, now I have 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I'm going to put that in with the egg yolk. Throw the top on, and I'm going to turn it on while I emulsify in the melted butter. From there, I'm going to season with just a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, and maybe just a touch more of that lemon juice. and then we're all ready to start plating. Alright, I have the sourdough down, just throwing down some smoked salmon on there. Then I will put the 2 poached eggs. Followed by a little seasoning, just a little salt and pepper. And the hollandaise sauce. Be sure to top with just a touch of cayenne just to finish it off, and voila. Alright guys, just finished this up and I'm gonna give it a try. The bread turned out really well. I don't know, just toasted it up. We have some smoked salmon here. Yeah. Cheers. Bread toasted up amazing, has a really nice crust. Eggs are poached well. The lemon comes through really nice, kind of accents that fish. I mean, what's there to say? Alright, we have this Eggs Benedict out of the way. Now it's time for a more daily breakfast. And today we're going to be making a mince and cheese pie as well as homemade Blue Powerade. Apparently a very popular thing in New Zealand. Alright, for the DIY Blue Powerade, I'm going to take these nice, beautiful raspberries here and macerate them with the sugar. I like using the bottom of a bowl or a small cup. I feel like it really kind of gets in there and purees, especially with softer fruit like raspberry. Now I'm going to put over the stove, heat up briefly, just kind of get it all incorporated together. And then I'm going to use this beautiful Michigan cherry concentrate that I had on hand and just mixing that in. A little pinch of salt adds those electrolytes that you need so much with your Powerade, and we're off to the races. Now I'm just going to take that raspberry mixture and strain. And then I've wet a coffee filter and just put it in my V60, and I'm just trying to get all these particulates out. And that's basically it. I'll just end up diluting this and adding a little bit of blue food coloring. Easy enough, huh? And last but not least, we have these beautiful mince and cheese pies. They are a little technical in the beginning, but you know what? They are totally worth it. So I've got my lemon juice there. I set that aside. I've got my salt and my flour here sifting through. We don't want any dry spots. Firstly, I'm going to take that 60 grams of unsalted butter. I grated it first and I froze it. Now I'm just incorporating a little bit with my hands. Try not to touch too much. I want this nice and cold. Now I'm adding that half teaspoon of lemon juice and then starting in with some of the ice water. So this is a gradual process, just ice water, mix, ice water, mix. We want it incorporated, we want it cold the whole time so we can keep having those nice big pieces of butter in there. Now, after I've added all that in, I'm going to turn it out onto a surface and just get it kind of incorporated into one piece. I'm gonna knead it for about 1 minute, just kind of still get it together there. And then I will throw it in the fridge, wrapped in plastic wrap, for about 5 minutes to let it relax. After that, I have it out. I'm going to slowly but surely get it out into kind of a rectangle here. Reminder, we have 200 grams of the grated and frozen butter. I'm using 100 grams to kick it off, and then I'm going to do an envelope fold over it just to get some lamination started. This is going to be a really rough and piecey, messy dough at the beginning, but it'll come together in the end, I promise. So I just spun it 90 degrees, and now I'm going to get it in a similar shape that I just had it. Now I have the second half of that 200 grams of butter, so this is the second 100 grams. I'm going to lie in the middle, do the same exact fold, that nice envelope fold. You'll notice it's really coming together now. It actually looks like a dough, and we are going to spin it again 90 degrees, roll it out nice and flat. Now that we have the total amount of butter in there that we will need, I'm going to repeat this process 3 more times. So a total of 5 envelope folds. Keep turning it, folding it, turning it, folding it, etc. And after you're done with all that, you'll toss it in the fridge in some plastic wrap and let rest for at least 2 hours. I know this seems like a lot of work, and it is a nice amount of elbow grease, but honestly, this is one of the easiest versions, yet still super rewarding pastries. So I do highly recommend. It also helps quite a bit to own a bench scraper. You can find them on Amazon for like $5, very cheap, super useful. And you know what, when you're not using it here, you can, wipe all those crumbs off your table. Look at that. Alright, packing it away, and again, 2 hours from now, we can pull it out and start rolling it out. I do like to write the time on it in Sharpie. This is just a nice trick, just so you don't kind of get lost. While we're waiting on that, I'm going to get started with this mince and cheese pie filling. Dicing those onions, smashing that garlic, getting it into a nice little mince. I'm not being too particular about these slices. This is a bit of a rustic filling. I just call anything rustic that I don't want to be exact about. But yeah, here's the tomato paste. And again, just kind of a rough chop on these carrots. It'll get you going. Now, you don't need to use the carrots, but I think they add a nice texture and a little sweetness. Now, olive oil going down in the pan. Got our carrots and onions going in, just getting a little translucent, warming up, softening a bit. Now we have the garlic going in. We want that in kind of after a little while, so we're not burning any garlic. And then we have our ground beef going in. I have this at room temperature. Always have your ground meat, any meat really, at room temperature before you cook it. That way you can cook it evenly. Broken up a bit, just seasoning with a bunch of salt and pepper. After a little bit, maybe a couple more minutes, I've got the beef stock going in, as well as the tomato paste and the little bit of Marmite, followed by the Worcestershire. So this is all just kind of adding some salt in there, more salt, so kind of be careful, just watch how much you're putting in, taste it as you go. So after about 10 minutes of going around there, I'm going to add my tablespoon of flour. This is just a thickening agent. Now we're just going to want to cook this through and then set aside in a pot and throw into the fridge to cool. Now that pastry is ready to roll out, be sure to flour everything just so nothing sticks, but don't incorporate too much flour into that. We don't want our dough to dry out. This is a steady as she goes process, so just try to have a little patience here.
It's going to take a little while to roll this out. It's a stiff dough and it's also cold. Be sure not to run your rolling pin off the end of the dough. That's how you taper it, and that's how you start losing your constant depth in your dough. We just want it all uniform, all the same size. So you'll see me just kind of working along with it, flour as we go, more rolling, spin it, shape it, keep it consistent. Now that I've got it all rolled out, I'm going to grab a 4-inch cup, or you can use a lid. Just find something in your kitchen or a cookie cutter. I found this Yeti cup to be a nice shape and size, so I am just going to cut out 12 4-inch rounds. These are going to go into my 12 cup cupcake tin. So I want 12 of those 4-inch rounds, and then I want 12 3-inch rounds. Now I'm using this little ball jar lid here, and that's just about the right size for me. So if you are using your own cupcake tin, take a look at it. Measure from edge to edge, and then measure from the edge down into the depth across and back up. Here I have the Colby Jack cheese. I'm just going to get a rough chop on it and stir it into our cooled pie filling. Spraying a little canola oil on the inside here, and then I'm going to start setting these 4-inch circles down inside the tin. Now be a little gentle with these. They will warm up and kind of become more pliable, but just keep that in mind. Now I'm using this ice cream scoop to fill these just so I have a consistent amount going in, and then I'm pulling up the sides of the dough so I can kind of get to the edge there and seal them when I put the tops back on. I have the egg wash. Remember, this egg wash is just 1 egg yolk as well as 1 tablespoon of whole milk beaten. I'm just going around gently, and then I'll start placing the tops of these on and kind of pinching them, just getting them to touch and kind of get acquainted. And then I'll go around with this fork here to seal it up. Once we get those all together and get this egg wash on them, I'm going to preheat my oven to 400 degrees. After we get this nice even egg wash on them, I'm just going to go in with this knife and cut some vents, and then they'll go in for about 20 minutes or until golden brown. Just like this.
Alright, so we are sitting down real quick to go over the quote-unquote tradey breakfast. I'm assuming that it means a tradesman or like a quick breakfast before you go to work. So I have what will be Blue Powerade right here. This is some food coloring. And then I have the Mince and Cheese Pies here. I have to say just right off the bat that this pastry I would definitely recommend. Super flaky, super crunchy, super delicious. Yeah. So let's make this into Blue Powerade real quick. So I'm gonna start small, 2 drops. Let's try. I know we have to overpower the pink. Whoa. Okay, now it's now it's like black. Let's try a little bit more. 2 more. Now it's purple. Let's try 2 more. Okay, that should do it. Oh wow. That is a crazy color. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's definitely blue purplish. Kind of expected, but yeah. So the primary flavor inside the Powerade is raspberry and cherry. And basically we have that here. So it honestly tastes like Blue Powerade with just like this touch more fresh raspberry thing going on, which I'm not mad at. The fact that it's blue kind of, I don't know, tricks me into thinking that it is blue raspberry flavor, which is kind of a crazy thing because when I drank it earlier, it definitely was like, just tasted like fresh raspberry, like raspberry juice kind of, with some cherry. I don't know. I think it's delicious. All right, let's try one of these pies. So, all right. So you can see on the inside, we got really, really nice flaking in there. Kind of just the inner layer got that kind of nice meat juice attached to it, and kind of has like a softer texture on the inside. But there's an audible crunch, like a crispy crunch, when you open it up there. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure what these are supposed to taste like, but if the real things taste anything like this, I'm completely sold. This thing is trippy as hell too. It's almost blue on the edges and then purple on the deep inside. But anyways, yep. Super stoked on this. Freaking delicious. Thank you so much to you guys that suggested this. It turned out great. And if you guys, I don't know, want to try this recipe over anything over there, let me know if you do, and let me know how it turns out. I'd love to know. Cool. Cheers.